פרשת במדבר, the לימוד שברפואה את החולים, חיה פרשת עידית, אברהם בן רבקה, אנה פלורס ומרי פלורס בתוך שעה חולי ישראל. ואילו נשמת יעקב ניסן בן הסי. In our Parsha Bamidbar, I want to try to connect an idea of Bamidbar with Shavua. So we can learn both as this coming Shabbos we will be celebrating both. So how do we strengthen our relationships? How do we allow family to become part of our lives? And how do we love Torah? In order to answer these questions, I believe it is essential for us to address why was the Torah given in the Midbar. This week's Parsha is Bamidbar. So why was the Torah given in the Midbar? As in, if I were to say, where should we give the Torah? Most people would say, let's give it in a shul, let's give it in the Beit HaMikdash, let's give it in an auditorium. Fine, let's say we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, so let's give it in an auditorium. Let's give it like in some other like nice place. But we choose to give it in the Midbar. That's what Hashem decides, and that's what Am Yisrael decides. So why? So this Sfarim explains two ideas that I think will allow us to understand these questions. And they will seem like two separate ideas in the beginning, and let's explain how they are really the same. So the Sfarim says, Uve midbar hu b'li tzior. So the Midbar is the perfect place to give the Torah, says the Sfarim, because it does not have any shape. In other words, it's empty. You go to the Midbar, you go to the desert, there's nothing there. So it's perfect, says the Sfarim. So, first question just on that idea is why it's perfect. Doesn't once again, it leads us back to our same question. How is that an answer? Our real question that we are trying to address is why are we giving the Torah in a place that's not beautiful, that's not nice, that's not special? We're giving the Midbar. Let's give it in like a Talmidei Chacham's house, let's give it in like Moshe Rabbeinu's house, but we're giving in the desert. So that's the first answer. The second answer that the Sfarim gives is because Rechovot titin kola b'makom shemirachivim ota. Because it is far. Because it is far, it allows me to give you something that normally you wouldn't be able to receive. So we have two answers. Number one, that second answer does not help us with our question. As in, still, why are we giving it, fine, we could give it in a faraway shul. Let's give it, originally we were Mitzrayim, so let's go to Eretz Yisrael. And so who cares? As in, both these answers are nice, but they don't really help us answer the question. So I want to try to unwrap these two answers, and in the process of doing that, explain how they're not really two different answers and how they're really one of the same thing. So number one, Uve midbar hu b'li tzior, because the Midbar is empty, it has no shape. It has no shape and it's empty and there's nothing in it. When I was younger, I didn't really understand that you could only eat so much food. So I'd eat before I was going out to dinner. I would go eat 7 bowls of cereal, and then we'd get to dinner and I'd order food and I wouldn't be able to eat it. And the food was way better than cereal. A nice Chinese restaurant's 10 times better than any food I have in my house. But I couldn't eat it. I couldn't eat the really good thing. So what I didn't understand is that you could only fit so much inside your stomach, and I was eating cereal, so my stomach was full. Really mamash full. I was not a skinny kid. I was pretty fat. And so I couldn't eat more. So I couldn't eat the things that were like really good. So that was the thing I was understanding. And another way to understand this is that you cannot plant a flower unless you empty something. Like you empty the ground. You dig up some dirt and you put a seed in, and then the flower sprouts. And if you want to put in a pot, same thing. It has to be like an empty area. It needs to be empty. So that's number one. That's how we explain the first idea. Sometimes when you want to allow something to grow, it needs to be in an empty space. And so getting back to our second answer that we have, ברחובות תיתן קולה במקום שמרחבים אותה. Because it's far. So because Hashem chose a place that was far away from where we were, in order to give us the Torah. So there's a story that of Rav Shagar, at the time was the Ram of Yeshiva Kotel, was a Ram, and it came time for Yom Kippur Tefillah. It was Shachari, it was in the morning, and Rav Ram sees a student of the yeshiva, no one that Rav Ram really spoke to, because he was like a mamash, like he was a big guy. And no one, so Rav Shagar did not really know this person so well. But he sees that it's Yom Kippur and the person is not really like participating. He's like, davening's just starting, he doesn't have his talit on, he's not like doing anything, and he doesn't really seem so into it. And everyone else is like dancing, they're getting really excited. Like it's Yom Kippur Tefillah, it's a huge deal. And so Shagar just couldn't take it, like it was really irritating him. So he goes over to the student and he says to him, he's like, could we please go on a walk? Like I would really appreciate getting the opportunity to walk with you. And so they go on a walk, and whatever they were talking about, it definitely wasn't about the individual himself from at least the beginning. And they basically spend the whole entire day of Yom Kippur walking around different parts of Yerushalayim. And they eventually make it to David HaMelech's kever, and that's really how the story goes. And by the end of that day, the student became Rav Shagar's Talmid. And the story makes no sense. Like Rav Shagar didn't do anything to the kid, he didn't say anything, but somehow this person's life was transformed. Like 5 days later, they went from like a nobody to like the coolest kid in yeshiva, or the coolest kid in the world. And why? And how does this explain, number one, why? And number two, how does this explain our second answer? ברחובות תיתן קולה במקום שמרחבים אותה. By distancing yourself, that will give you something. It will allow you to sprout. It will allow you to grow. And I think the idea, in understanding this idea through the story, it allows us to realize that Rav Shagar did nothing other than say to the kid, I want to show how much I care about you. I want to show you that it's not you doing anything that really makes me care about you. It's very often spoken about that Jews are not special because of what they do. They're special because of who they are. And so Rav Shagar was saying to the Talmid that I want to go far with you. I want to leave this place. I'd forget about my Yom Kippur Tefillah, forget about davening in general. He didn't daven Shachrit, Musaf, Mincha, Mariv. He's like, I just want to show you how much I really care about you. He didn't say that, but that was the message that was sent through his actions. And so we now understand that sometimes distancing yourself from the shul allowed him to want to be in shul. He didn't want to be in shul originally. He was only there because that was just what he was supposed to do. but by way of Rav Shagar saying, get out. We can't be here right now. You don't want to be here. The best thing for you is to leave. And so we left. And in essence, we see it throughout the Torah. Avram Avinu leaves. He goes. Adam and Chava leave. They're kicked out. They didn't want it. And Hashem says, you know what you need to do? Leave. In order for you to want any of this, you need to leave. Because sometimes, on an individual level, I'm not talking about the problems of society. I don't care about that. But sometimes we realize that it's impossible or very difficult to recognize not what you have, but what you are when you don't take yourself out of the place that you exist. And so, just to recap on that idea, by way of distancing ourselves, it allows us to become closer. Sometimes you need to go far in order to become close. And now, let's try to understand how both of these ideas answer our original question. Why was the Torah given in the Midbar? And how do these two ideas not only answer that, but how do they connect? How are they the same idea? Both of the ideas that we just spoke about, although they're not directly focused on this, both of the stories contain the element that was spoken in the other story. So, for example, the planting of a seed. In order to plant a seed, you really need to distance yourself from the seed. As in, let's just say a man and a wife. The husband does not have the child in his stomach. The wife does. But it's still distance from them. It's very close, but it's distancing themselves from it. And the seed, in order to plant the seed, yes, you're making room, but you're also putting it farther away from you. If I have a pot and I'm sitting over the pot, and I put it in the pot, it's farther away from me now. And allowing ourselves and distancing ourselves is really creating room. Why? Because when we're somewhere, when we're in a moment, very often we don't have room in our heart to allow, or we won't allow the thing that we want to connect to enter our heart. So for example, sometimes people find themselves fighting. And when you're in a fighting moment, it's very hard to say, I don't want to be in a fight. Because then you want to allow your love for that person to enter your heart. It exists, but you really want to allow it to enter it. But you're fighting and you're speaking that it's like pushing away that ahava. So what do you really need to do? The Pizetzer Rebbe says that when you're in a moment of mamash, fighting, you're really arguing with someone, an idea to do is to, when you're done fighting, when the moment comes, when the moment passes and you're oh, why'd I do that? To write down every single thing that you feel towards that person. And for every single day going forward, to read that thing over that you felt for that person in the moment. You mamash were screaming at them. To write that down. Or you didn't scream at them, you held it back. To write down all those feelings. And I'm not talking about the ones that you said, I'm talking about the ones you wanted to say. The curse words, the bashing the person. Write it down, and every single day, read that. And not just to read that, but to scream it. And by way of doing that, you allow something to enter your heart. You allow, by way of Rav Shagar distancing themselves from the Beit Midrash, the kids' hatred for the Beit Midrash or for the Beit Knesset, which many of us have. We don't like those places. We get yelled at in those places. By way of distancing themselves, say, I'm not going to go to shul. They allowed it to enter them. He said, I want it. I miss it. I really miss it. Yom Kippur is special. Forget about it. In essence, it's special to me. You sometimes don't know that if you're just standing there. If you've been there since you were 1 year old, you don't necessarily get the opportunity to realize what it means to you. And So now we understand that the two ideas are both connected. Matan Torah was given in the Midbar in order for us to be in a place that distanced ourselves and was empty. Because that made room for it inside of us. And so my bracha going into Parshat Bamidbar and going into Kabbalah Torah is that we should recognize that sometimes making room in our heart and distancing ourselves allows us to truly become closer to the ones who we love, to the Torah, and to Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.